Torbridge Fund Finance Committee.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I don't know, Councillor Thomas, if you wanted to stay, you're more than welcome to. No, okay. and Councillor Franklin, obviously, you would like to join.
Thank you very much.
Sorry?
That thing buffer, is that working?
It's not recording, I think the sound is on. But would you like to join the...
Yeah, I'll do that.
That's it.
Yeah. Trying to be now, I want to be Mrs.
Careful.
Join the happy band.
There's a thing for you there.
Fantastic, thank you. I don't know what they are, but I'm sure they're brilliant. Oh, yes,
Is that Peter?
yes, thank you.
Okay.
Good, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you very much. Welcome to the first Finance Committee. This is the Sandwich Torbridge Fund Finance Committee. We know that we agreed the membership, so just to remind everybody, Councillor Black, Councillor Green, the Mayoress, the Mayor, Councillor Chuka, Councillor Franklin, Councillor Pennington, Councillor Anderson and Councillor Wiles. So the first item on the agenda is to elect a chair, and that was agreed at the Torbridge Fund meeting that the committee would do that. So are there any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Chuka for chair of this committee. I'll second that.
Yeah, I second that.
I'm going to say that, are there any other nominations?
No.
Okay. So are you all in favour of Councillor Chuka?
Are you in favour?
Yes. Thank you very much. So I hand over to
Councillor beforehand.
Yeah, stay in the same place.
Thank you. Thank you, Town Clerk. So moving across to apologies for any absences.
Yes, so we have apologies from Councillor Green for a travel commitment and Councillor Pennington for a travel commitment.
Thank you. And opportunity for any declarations of interest. Has anybody got any declarations of disposable pecuniary interest from themselves in respect of business to be transacted on this agenda? Good. Thank you. And we've got the minutes from the Finance Committee meeting on the 19th of February 2024. Does anybody have any comments on the previous minutes? It's going well. Would you like to, somebody like to propose those minutes? Somebody second?
Absent.
Vote.
Yes, thank you, that's everybody.
Okay. Item 5, public participation, 20-minute session. Have we got anybody who would like
No
to
requests.
participate? Thank you. Okay, the one main topic for discussion is Torbridge Fund policy for grants and criteria for awards. That's item 6 on the agenda. The Town Clerk is going to share a report with a view to seeking the way forward for updating the criteria and policy and to undertake a review of the process involved for TBF grant applications. So I'd like to pass over to Town Clerk to start with.
Thank you very much. So I know that there has been discussion previously, obviously, about the situation with the grants under the Torbridge Fund. So there is a policy that we have currently. I've shared with you the grant award criteria for the Torbridge Fund and also the grant application form. So those are the current forms used. I also took the opportunity to draft an evaluation form as well for grants going forward. So that's just something to be debated by members. So what I hope is we're going to seek the way forward for updating the criteria and policy for Torbridge Fund grants, including the process involved. The Torbridge Fund has had an open funding process that gave access to the opportunity to apply for funding all year round. The budget is discussed each year in November and it's set for the ensuing fiscal year from April. The trustee this year were mindful that the budget for 24-25 of £10,000 should be allocated over 2 tranches of funding applications. The trustee awarded £6,500 in March, and it was suggested the next round of funding should be considered later in the year, September, October. The committee, I hope, will now consider updating the criteria and policy for the Tollbridge Fund grants and review the process involved. I'm seeking guidance from the committee on how the approach should be undertaken. I could draft the updated criteria and policy for debate, or the committee may prefer to have a working group to undertake this work. As I said, I've drafted an evaluation form which is attached to the report as well for you to consider, which hopefully will be forming part of the process going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. So the discussion is really about the way forward rather than the detail of the product and process at the moment. So whilst people may have some comments on the content, let's talk about how we take this forward. So Councillor Wiles, I think you want to say something to start?
Yeah, so I did some work on this some time ago. I think I did have a stab at amending these forms and making them hopefully a bit clearer and the process a bit clearer, because I mean, my starting point with this is what I said on Monday about where's the governing document, the Act of Parliament for the Tollbridge Fund. I think we need to know exactly what we're required to administer as the trustee, the single trustee of this charity. But clearly we have given money to organisations in the past that perhaps were not as high a priority as other groups, and there has been many applications coming to this Tollbridge Fund which haven't been properly checked or vetted or analysed, and we've been wasting our time. So I think there must be a much more rigorous pre-vetting process done internally with the town clerk and the RFO before any application comes to us. So that's the first thing I think we need to do. I mean, we need to make it clear that we're getting all the information we need, and that we as the trustee are able to make a balanced and rational and fair decision when it comes here. So my view on taking this forward would be that we all look at these documents. I don't think we need a working group. I think the town clerk should run this. I think we should all send in our two pennyworth on how they could be amended or updated, and then the town clerk comes back to a future meeting with a revised set of documents with the clear aim that we are not looking at applications unless they've been properly pre-vetted, and that all the boxes have been ticked before they come here.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I fully agree with Councillor Wiles here. Yeah, there is these aspects. Number one is the pre-vetting, which I've always thought isn't being done correctly. With all due respects, it's left to the RFO as a singular person to vet that, and in any organisation that would not be acceptable. So I think that needs to change. I think that should be a group of at least two, a minimum of two, if not three people, to undertake that. The other aspect is to do with the criteria. I mean, the criteria I think are adequate. I tell you, the area where the Tollbridge Fund is failing is not maintaining its criteria. So quite often we haven't had all the information we should have had, or the accounts aren't forthcoming, or they're the wrong accounts, or from 2 years back. And if the organisation is known to the town, it seems to be that they, I won't say get preferential treatment, but they're well known, so they're sort of more favourably looked on. So I think it should be set up so that it's completely equal, democratic, and fully vetted to a better degree. And I think that's what we should be aiming for.
And transparent.
As transparent as a minimum.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we've always supported the local schools, but they've all gone like academies now and private businesses now, and I'm quite worried about in the future whether we should look at them as just as a private company. Rather, I know they get special projects. Sometimes you get a special green project like a Manwood schools. They're doing wind turbines, or like the other schools they've done solar panels at Manwood. And I mean, sometimes they're quite good, but I think they've got to be quite careful. And we've also always supported Scouts or Girl Guides that have done Duke of Edinburgh's awards. When they go off,
which is quite handy. So I think it's got to be just a bit of discretion at times, a bit of a grey. Well, I don't really can tighten it too much. I don't really want to exclude all this. That was another thing with Mammoth, especially when it was the band, wasn't it? The band always used to come to all our functions, you know, mayor making, about twice a year, Remembrance Day. So we go back to Britain Day, didn't we? So 3 times a year. But unfortunately now Mammoths haven't got a band, but we used to help them buy their equipment for the band because they used to support us 3 times a year. So I think everything has to be done on merit.
Thank you. Councillor Black.
I think the critical thing for me is organisation of the planning council must provide audited accounts. And if they don't do it, I'm sorry, no. It's an absolute no, and that will actually change the tenor. The thing I haven't noticed in here, and I perhaps missed it, should we also specifically invite the people when they're making the application being said, to actually attend the meeting? Because often councillors will have questions, and if you can answer it straight away, you may very rapidly come to the appropriate decision. I didn't see it in the notes, but I may have missed it.
I think that absolutely. I think any applicant should come to the meeting and be questioned, and that should be one of the criteria. If they don't come, they don't get the money.
Well, that's something else I was going to say. I don't think an organisation should just come every year. I think it should be like seed money. So they get a grant, say, for 3 years or 5 years, but when they get to a certain size, they should be generating their own income. You should automatically think, oh, you know, get grant from the town council, because I think that's all wrong. We want to support other people as well. So I think it should be like seeding.
I was going to say that I've been a trustee of a funding charity, and we had a maximum amount for annual turnover, and anybody above that level we didn't fund. So we could make a decision.
So hearing that, I think, so from my perspective, I think we've got a real opportunity to actually take back control of this process now, rather than half-bake a solution, and we should grab that, because I think we all know that it's been very frustrating over the last year, what we inherited in terms of commitments, but then also what we ourselves were slightly guilty of in terms of not being as robust about the process. Maybe the process didn't help us enough. Conveniently, and I know Councillor Wiles has done some work previously on it, but conveniently the delay in anything coming out has meant that a few local councils around us have recently published a revamp of their fund application processes. And this is not me determining at all where we go with it, but we shouldn't be such in a vacuum that we don't actually look outwards, because some of these councils are now saying they have a lower amount specified, a higher amount specified, and it's driven that way, so they're very much in control of it. They're very tight around the budget available. So I think we shouldn't try and rush through something, and whilst I appreciate the town clerk taking in the comments, I would ask that anybody commenting, and we should open it across the council, take some time to actually comes up with good proposals. So for example, I'd be happy, I will sit down probably and look at some of these other examples and try and suggest a way of doing it. So rather than just saying, this isn't working, I think we need to invest the time in getting it right. Because if not, we're the ones owning it and delivering it in the future. Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, I think another thing, I mean, this is just a pragmatic point about it, that you really do need to indicate the kind of length of answer that you want.
Yes.
So you say a maximum of 300 words or whatever, or, you know, it says brief description somewhere. How long is a piece of string? So I think there have to be clearer indicators of what's expected.
Sorry, and I was just in reaction to that again, I found it fairly difficult having to have our public participation slots taken more than once by some organisations wanting money. I found that almost puts us into a press situation. You know, it needs to be a clean process. We have a panel, we bring people in, they have the opportunity then, but we don't use the margins of other opportunities to have this, and then have letters. We even had emails, if I recall rightly, from some parts as well,
Yeah.
saying why they needed money. So we're not here
No.
to be badgered, in my opinion, that way. So, Councillor Parton.
Oh yes. So the other matter that I wanted to raise was I think it's been raised in this room today is we shouldn't sit on our own high horse and say, oh look how poorly these applications have been put in. We should also look at ourselves. Can we perhaps draw up a guide to a system? We've heard tonight, you know, how much is brief, put a brief detail of how much is brief.
Yeah.
You know, is there any possibility that perhaps we can draw up a guide, possibly draw up a sort of a depersonalised example? So another organisation, how much they're putting in, how much they put, just to give an example. We shouldn't really be expecting everybody to be business people or have like a degree in economics to be able to fill out these forms. We should be going to the lowest common denominator. So if somebody's putting forward something from an organisation and it's a youth organisation or whoever, they've not got the ability to fill in such forms, we should be trying to help them to fill in the forms, so to make sure that they can do them. We shouldn't have it so complicated.
Yeah.
As you said, give brief details. Well, what brief details?
Yeah.
You know, so.
We'll be happy if they come and speak to us, wouldn't they?
Yes, yeah. I think that's
It's so important they come and speak to us.
Indeed, yeah, that's right.
So can we just
Should be helping them.
Can we focus on the where we are today to where we need to get to? What sort of time frame are we talking about, and what I don't think we necessarily want is to say, right, okay, this is the date that the town clerk comes back with a proposal, because the risk is that we end up not being happy with it. So I think it's important that we have somewhere along the way a fire break where we can reflect on what's coming and discuss the shape of it. So any suggestions on when do we want to conclude this by? Is a starting point, what time frame?
Can I ask the question, when do we need to have it
Yes.
concluded by?
Yeah.
Because when does the cycle start again?
Yeah.
And that's the critical issue. We need to have the meeting before the cycle
Yeah.
starts and hammer it out and say that's the final version. You now have 4 weeks for people to look at it and
So
apply.
maybe the town clerk could explain where we are with this year's cycle.
Yes, so you have allocated £6,500 and the decision you took was that the next tranche would be September, October.
Yeah.
So if you think about that, you've only got one more Tollbridge Finance Committee before September in July. So maybe that will steer the...
Suggest then the tranche has to be looked at in October, and the September meeting is the deciding meeting, and that finalises where we are.
Or alternatively, we live
Or-
with what we've got this year, and we say that we're aiming for 25/6 as the launch of the new policy, because I'm fearful that we'll squash in and not get the right outcome. But that's my personal view in terms of what I'm hearing now.
Have we had any applications currently?
Yes, we've got one that's pending for the next tranche
Also,
Was it?
at Samjiburg.
I just wanted to point out that both this administration and the previous administration had said that they would review this and get it up to date.
Yeah.
So we are letting ourselves down and the public if we don't move this forward.
And we will.
Can I make a suggestion? I really think that the past is gone. We now are setting the future, and I would really strongly recommend that we seek to have a very thorough discussion in September. I'm sorry, otherwise it will drift. This is my concern.
I agree with you, but Ian, in terms of timing of the discussion, certainly, yes.
I would propose a way forward. I think Councillor Sheep has mentioned that other organisations, councils have updated their policies.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy to work with him on the basis of the work I did previously.
Yeah.
Tweak that with the town clerk, That takes a bit of pressure off Jill and her staff if we do that. Circulate that as a document, you know, setting out clear priorities. Because, for example, South Sandwich should be seen as a priority. You know, how many organisations are there? But, you know, we should be saying these are our priorities, so that organisations are clear. Circulate that to all the committee within the next 4 weeks, 5 weeks.
Middle of July.
And
The
then
next meeting is in July.
Yes,
Is there an August?
we
Is
might
there
need
an
to bring it
August
to the
meeting?
meeting after that. But if
But
we,
is there an August meeting?
No.
no,
No.
So
So it's
it
July.
does have to be July.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
So I guess, yes.
Have you got the capacity though?
We'll give it
we'll give it a go.
a damn go, as they say.
Yeah, if you've got previous research data
Yes,
from
that's the thing.
organisations,
I
that's
did
on
some-
the first step.
I did some forms previously which
Yeah.
I can tweak and we can
Yeah.
look at those.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the first step, is to agree that we do some corralling of information to bring that back to the next meeting, and then we can decide, and actually that will help inform whether it's too difficult to try and get it in time, or alternatively it is doable for
Doable.
September.
I'm happy with that.
Otherwise, we just deal with the current application under the old current.
That is our,
You know,
Well,
default and then work towards
yeah,
early next year having it in place for the
Yeah.
for the future.
I'm finding that at the moment I'm very confused. 40 years or 50 years we've had Sandwich Tollbridge meetings after council meetings. And so we used to have 12 months, 24 meetings a year. Now we've gone down to 12, and this year it's going to be not an August meeting, so it's going to be 11 meetings. And there was always part of the council meetings. Now I thought we was going to have less Tollbridge meetings, charity meetings. But the thing is, it looks like we're going to have one in July. I mean, there's so much to do after with the salaries. We've always done the salaries every month, haven't they?
Yeah.
So I don't know how, I think to me this seems skewed.
So there's two questions there. So we'll talk from a financial perspective with the town clerk, but in terms of the meetings, Jeff, the frequency, the Tollbridge Fund itself as a trustee, that has reduced, as you know, to quarterly. What is meeting is this finance group each month apart from August. So that mirrors what other committees are doing within the town council space. But it's a good
Does
point.
that mean then that someone to provide something, they've got to wait 3 months before they get the money?
So there always is, obviously when we invoice, there is always a period.
Yeah, but 3 months is a lot to me.
But no, I'm working with the RFO because
Yeah.
obviously, but there shouldn't have to be meetings in August. Lots of other councils don't have meetings in August. We've got to find a process where we
No, I'm
delegate.
against that, you know why, because it's a quarterly meeting.
And-
That's what you're going to do away with quarterly meetings, that'll be your next thing.
So I suppose the specific point, Jill, is that there are financial considerations that would normally have been done on a monthly basis
Yeah,
at the full STBF. How do we address those in the intervening period? And if we don't address them until,
because a lot of these are little businesses.
yeah,
yeah.
what are the consequences of not doing that?
Yeah, so basically what I need to do is the delegation to the committee needs to be in the terms of reference, which I didn't want to go and put in
We're not doing that
amounts
today.
of money.
No.
No, we're not doing that today, I know,
No.
but I'm just explaining to Councillor Frank in
Yeah.
the process. So there is going to be an extraordinary Tollbridge Fund meeting, which I'm hoping everybody can respond to me by Friday, because I need to get the agenda out. And that will then address all the payment schedules that were not agreed on Monday. So all the finances should be agreed next week with an extraordinary meeting. And then what we need to do is with the terms of reference, I need to make sure that the Tollbridge Fund Committee has delegated responsibility for agreeing payments.
Exactly, it's about delegated payments. You're talking about small businesses
Yeah.
with delegation payments, you know, what, £1,000, £2,000, then that
Well,
could be.
that means they don't have to go back to town councils, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And that's the way to go, Jeff. It's
Oh,
about
yeah, no, because they do Amazon and stuff.
working
don't they?
smarter.
Yes. Yeah.
So in the past, you know,
Yeah.
these 2 meetings a month and things like that, we've been labouring, it's about working smarter now, so,
Yeah, it's just with the delegated authority to the town clerk
yeah,
to pay the bills monthly whenever they come in,
exactly.
rather than making the three.
So for the small companies, they will get their payments, and for the big companies, it'd be 90 days anyway.
Yeah.
So it'd be a 90-day
I'm sorry about those
contract.
local businesses, that was all.
Yeah, no, that'd be come under delegated authority.
Yeah, yeah, that.
So, Councillor Watts first.
I think part of this review is also that we're only going to have maybe twice a year when applications are open,
Oh,
which
yeah,
is
yeah.
normal. So you say, okay, we have a window in October or September or a window in February.
Yep.
So all organisations can only apply in that window,
Yep.
and they have to plan ahead for when they know their funding is required. Like, we can't just be accepting applications all
No,
through
no,
the year.
before that, we'll agree that. Otherwise they apply and we haven't got any money.
Yeah,
Exactly.
No.
Just
So it's a two-way thing.
my point around delegation of any financial considerations, I'd just like to ask the town clerk to make sure that it's valid, because of course the STBF in itself is a trustee as opposed to a subset of councillors being trustees. So as long as we legitimately do whatever it is that you propose, then let's discuss it, and let's make sure it is compliant with
Absolutely, the charity commission
and the fund as a trustee
Yes.
as opposed to 16 trustees.
yes, no, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other comments before we close on this one? No. So I think the proposal, if I play it back, is that between Colin, myself, and the town clerk, that we will generate a review and an output to bring back to this meeting in July for the first stage discussion. So if that proposal is accepted, would anyone like to say
Yeah,
a bit?
could I just add
Yeah.
to that if anybody from this committee wish to input
Oh,
to
yeah,
that,
that's definitely.
that they can do,
Yes.
and I'll be happy to propose that.
I'll
Also,
like to vote. Thank you. Let's go back to the top of my page. Right, so date and time of next meeting, Wednesday the 17th of July 2024, and it will be following again the FNGP committee meeting. So thank you to everybody for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ian?
Meeting closed.
You have 3 minutes.
1977.